Welcome to DefCon 3. I'm KT McFarland. President Obama and German Chancellor Angela Merkel met at the White House earlier to lay out the West's strategy in Ukraine. Now, this comes amid growing calls from U.S. lawmakers to provide lethal aid to Ukrainian troops. But European officials have insisted they'd rather have a diplomatic solution. Joining us to discuss is Boris Zilberman with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Boris, thanks for joining us. Are the United States and the European leaders seeing eye to eye on how to deal with Ukraine and Putin?
I don't think so, and we're not seeing eye to eye here in Washington, D.C. either on how exactly to go about this, and I think Putin is using this to his advantage in Ukraine.
So, well, the Europeans, particularly led by Germany, they want a diplomatic solution. What does a diplomatic solution look like?
So that's exactly the thing. That is probably going to look like a frozen conflict, which doesn't really mesh with what Vice President Biden said in Munich the other day, which was our objective is the territorial integrity of Ukraine. So I think if you continue to talk, you're trying to get to something that looks like a frozen conflict because Vladimir Putin has given no indication that he's willing to roll back the gains of the forces that he supports in Ukraine.
Well, what if we do aid the Ukrainians? We give them more than just meals ready to eat and blankets. Let's say we give them defensive weapons, night vision goggles, some intelligence, maybe some anti-tank weapons. They keep fighting, but ultimately, can the Ukrainians defend Ukraine? Can they actually push the Russians out of their country?
They can certainly, hopefully, stop them from advancing into other key cities like Mariupol, which is kind of next on the list for the separatists. Can they push them out? Can they defeat a full-on Russian onslaught? No, but can they inflict the kind of cost that Putin needs or that you would want to inflict on the Russians to kind of change their analysis of the situation? I think that's a question that might be worth pursuing, and certainly those in Congress and other former Obama administration officials are pursuing.
I was in Ukraine last year, and what it was clear to me is this is an economic story as much as a military story, that Ukraine's economy is in terrible shape, but they need political stability and they need security in order to attract Western investment. How long can this go on with Ukraine still being economically on the ropes? I mean, at what point does Ukraine just say, hey, look, we've got to settle, and even though we don't like it, we're going to have to settle because our economy is in such terrible shape?
That's exactly right. And when you're missing a large chunk of your country and what's the industrial base, it's very hard to get on your feet, economically speaking. There's certainly a basket case and when it comes to their economy. And the Polish have offered to sell them arms, but they don't exactly have the funds to buy the arms they need in large quantities to be able to defend themselves. So they're really reliant on the IMF, the World Bank, and Western allies to basically prop them up as long as this fight continues.
Okay, so what happens with Putin? Let's say this is, as you predict, a frozen conflict. Russia doesn't win, Ukraine doesn't win, everybody keeps fighting. Does Russia have its eyes on other territory? Are they looking at, say, Moldova? Are they looking even at the NATO allies in the Baltic?
Look, I think they're certainly looking to undermine the sovereignty of what they see as their sphere of influence. Any of these Baltic countries, or Moldova or Bulgaria, where they're kind of inputting a lot of money to opposition groups, to propaganda, to front groups. I think their goal is to really destabilize. Whether they move into militarily is an open question, but what they're certainly doing right now is undermining the sovereignty and the kind of free association that any country should really have, and they're certainly aggressively going about that in the area that's near them.
Talk to me about Putin and his situation at home. His popularity is very high with this Ukrainian crisis, but the Russian economy is in real trouble. Their ruble has been devalued by half. How long can Putin keep going with this economic crisis that he's facing at home?
Well, I think what we don't really take into full account is just how successful his domestic propaganda has been. You're exactly correct. The economy is doing horribly, but most people blame the West for that, and they don't correlate the fact that what is going on in Ukraine with their problems at their kitchen table, and that is a direct result of the millions of dollars that Putin has spent and the kind of sort of actions he's taken against free press in Russia that has really suffocated any sort of dissent from the official Kremlin line.
So bottom line, Putin needs an enemy, and Ukraine and the West are pretty good ones.
Yes, especially if they're on the same page.
Okay, well, Boris Zilberman from the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, thanks on this, and for the latest on the crisis in Ukraine, stick with FoxNews.com. I'm KT McFarland. Thanks for watching.